On December the 3rd, talkSPORT are going to bring you live an exclusive radio commentary of Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora, the trilogy. It is for the WBC World Heavyweight title. The story of how we got here kind of just loosely played out there with that little ditty that you heard before you heard our dulcet tones come back onto the radio. And it's listen, from a fight fan's point of view, it's a difficult fight to get wild about. And the reason for that is because we have seen this fight on two separate occasions previously. And on those two separate occasions previously, you could probably give Derek Chisora one round during those two fights, of which he lost handedly. He ended up calling time on one of those fights as well against Tyson Fury. Granted, there's been a lot of water under the bridge. Time has passed. Derek has given us some fun moments since Tyson Fury obviously has gone on to become the heavyweight champion of the world on a couple of occasions. But I'm going to be dead honest, Gareth. I can't see any other outcome than what I saw in the first two fights.
Yeah, look, the many faces or the many masks of Tyson Fury we saw in that build-up there, and also some of the shenanigans that in the lead-in in the audio there, and the shenanigans that Derek Chisora's got up to in his career. We've spoken about it on numerous occasions. It's a highly criticised fight. I'm still delighted to be there for talkSPORT, as I knew you are. It'll be a grand night. It'll be another Tyson Fury kind of second homecoming fight, and it is what it is. They looked around the divisions. They didn't get the Joshua fight underway. Usyk didn't want to fight now. And another fine mess I know we'll talk about this, another fine mess now this week with the IBF ordering Alexander Usyk to face Flip Hrgovic. Although what he's done in 15 fights to deserve to be mandatory to face that belt, I do not know.
Well, let's go there. Let's get into that one, because for people that don't know what has happened this week, the IBF have called their number one to face their IBF champion, which is Alexander Usyk. The IBF number one right now is Filip Hrgovic. We are told, and I saw this on an interview that Eddie Hearn was giving with somebody, that mandation from the IBF has gone to immediate purse bids. So therefore, what would normally happen in this situation is that a unification would trump a mandatory. So therefore, the fight that we all want to see is Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, champion of the WBC versus the unified champion. That would be classed as a unification. So all those belts coming together would trump any calling from the mandatory. But we are led to believe that in this particular situation, an exemption for the unification would not be granted because the purse bids, it's gone to immediate purse bids from the IBF. Now, here's my take on this. Every single boxing fan knows the fight that they want to see in the heavyweight division. It is Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Granted, I'm a romantic. I know that we have not seen the heavyweight undisputed championship since 1999. And we've all got caught up in that. I most certainly have. I would love, in my own career, to be sat ringside, to be announcing on talkSPORT, you are about to watch the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. That is the dream for all of us. But if it means that I've got to keep waiting for that undisputed heavyweight championship, I am willing to sacrifice being there for it. The real estate that is on the line for the fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk does not matter to me whatsoever. So therefore, there's an option there for Alexander Usyk.
We don't need the belts, do we? We don't need the belts.
He's going to be asked the question. He's going to be asked, defend or vacate. Yeah. If you are being pressurized by the IBF to defend or vacate it. Throw it in the bin. Nobody cares about that belt. All they care about is you versus Tyson Fury. And the message to Tyson Fury, quite simply off the back of that, if Alexander Usyk goes for that and he pushes towards a Tyson Fury fight, the message to Tyson Fury very simply is this. You cannot now use the fact that that fight is not officially undisputed as a reason as to not make that fight. You owe it to boxing. You owe it to your own legacy. Everybody in this game knows that the other guy right now is Alexander Usyk. If you want to be, without any shadow of a doubt, the guy from this era, you've got to go and beat him.
Yeah, the thing is, we know, as it stands at the moment, Adam, Tyson Fury's number one in the world and Alexander Usyk's number two. The ludicrous...
Well, officially, it's the other way around because the Ring Magazine champion is Alexander Usyk.
Yeah,
I'm getting what you're saying, though, regarding the eye test.
I don't agree with them. I think Fury's clearly the number one. He's the favourite going in against Alexander Usyk. The ludicrous nature of what the belts and what the sanctioning bodies are showing themselves up to, and also the lineal, if we can use that, the lineal titles on the line regardless anyway, never mind the Ring Magazine belt. None of those belts matter, because the ludicrous nature of this is, if Usyk decides to bin the IBF, the International Boxing Federation belt, which goes back, it's the old, by the way, it's the old American continent belt, for those that don't know. It was the American champions, and they are very strict about their rules. I'm surprised, by the way, that they don't want to be involved in that fight between Usyk and Fury in the Middle East, because it's going to be worth a hell of a lot more money than a Usyk-Hrgovic fight. Or they do go with it, and the ludicrous thing that could come out of this, and that's why Eddie Hearn wants to go to purse bids, Ed, is that after 2 losses on the bounce, it could end up, because Andy Ruiz is already tied in, and I think he's number 3 with the IBF. I think 2 is vacant at the moment. Flip Hrgovic is 1, obviously. Joshua's number 4. So on the back of 2 losses, we could end up, if that belt goes vacant, we could end up with Flip Hrgovic against Anthony Joshua, coming to fight for a world title belt with 2 losses on the bounce. If you go back in history 7 years, if you recall, Tyson Fury won that belt, by the way, against Vladimir Klitschko, and because he wouldn't fight against a guy called Glazgov at the time, Vyacheslav Glazkov, they stripped Tyson in 16 days, I think it was, of that IBF belt. Obviously, he went AWOL, but he was due to face Vladimir Klitschko in a rematch, wasn't he? Glazkov had a knee injury, I think, in that fight against Charles Martin for the belt, and Joshua beat Charles Martin to become the world champion for the first time 6 or 7 years ago. What a weird scenario it really is.
You can see it all happening again. That's exactly what. Listen, I hope from my point of view that the messaging from all people that cover boxing, fans as well, that the messaging is, we are not bothered about who holds what belt. We know who number 1 and number 2 is. Let's make number 1 and number 2 Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. With all due respect to Filip Hrgovic and Anthony Joshua, fighting for that IBF belt means nothing to me. You're not the world champion as far as I'm concerned, because the world champion, the best in the division, is the person that wins Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, and that is a fight that absolutely has to happen. My concern for this fight coming up on December the 3rd, even though I've just said 2 minutes ago I can't see any other result other than what I saw in the first 2 fights between these 2 guys, is injury. I don't want Tyson Fury to break his hands or to get a nasty cut like he did in the Otto Warland fight. I want him to come through, plain sailing, everything to be tickety-boo, and therefore in the first quarter of 2023, we can get that super fight on, because that is the only fight that we need to see in the heavyweight division. No disrespect to anybody else. That is the championship fight. Don't get me wrong, there's other competitive fights with other fighters. Wilder Joyce, for example. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. But as you've just alluded to there, the WBC have already ordered Wilder versus Ruiz, which would take Ruiz away from the IBF over to that side. Listen, like I said, everything else is irrelevant. It's about Fury. It's about Usyk. That fight has to happen. And I don't care how many belts, belts, if any, are on the line.
If I could just say, there was one positive statement from Tyson Fury this week, which was backtracking and saying, I need to fight Anthony Joshua before I retire. Bingo.
Well, why didn't he fight him on December the 3rd?
Oh, God knows. God knows. As I've always maintained, it was a bluff that went right at the beginning. Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua ran with it. They kind of knew all along they weren't happy with December the 3rd. They pushed to the 17th. It was a standoff. It was an egotistical standoff. It's a shame we didn't get the fight. He should have taken it on December the 3rd if he was going to take it. But this is the kind of thing that's working out now for Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua if Usyk has to vacate the IBF belt. What I think they should do in the next week is get the fight over the line, get it announced, get Usyk there on December the 3rd and say, here we go, guys. They're in the ring. Tyson Fury's just beaten Derek Chisora. It's announced February the 29th or March the 6th or whatever it is. I don't know what the Saturday dates are. We're going to the Middle East. The thing's signed. Bing, bing, bang, bosh.
Bing, bang, bosh, indeed. Fingers crossed that we actually get that. That's it. At the end of the day, with all due respect, the fans that are turning up that night, Yes, okay. They're coming maybe to watch Tyson Fury, and Derek's got a massive fan base. I get that. And they'll come. I think everybody would agree that they're expecting one particular result in the fight. The everlasting image from that fight, you want to see Usyk, Fury in the ring, nose to nose.
Yeah.
Very similar to what we saw the first time when Golovkin and Canelo came face to face. I couldn't even tell you who Canelo beat that particular night. I can't even remember, but I remember the image waking up the morning after, and it was those two in the ring that we were getting the super fight. That's what we need to see on the morning of December the 4th. No doubt about it.